Happy Labor Day, everybody. We've got something for you to have with your Mac salad, and that is Penn State football conversation. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. Ryan Snyder and Sean Fitz with me. It was a big weekend for Penn State football and Penn State football recruiting, so we're going to get into all of that today, including a reaction to the game. This is the recruiting show, but Penn State football played on Saturday, and this is the first show of the week, so we're definitely going to be talking about that. But first, Ryan, you're going on a boat today, from what I hear.
Oh, yeah, just taking the kids out, man. Harrisburg has this little festival called
Ryan,
Capone.
You're going to be on a boat today. You got to be more excited about it.
I mean, really, I'm just trying to get my work done, if I'm being honest. I'm trying to juggle dad duties and work duties. But, no, I mean, yeah, Harrisburg has this little thing called Capone. Take the kids down there, get your face painted, go on the boat, do some grilling. Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait.
Fitz, I know you're not on a boat today from what I've heard, unless I'm wrong about that. Any other holiday plans for today?
No, not really. Got my fantasy drafts in last night, so I'm kind of, getting there. So I spent the last hour doing dishes, but no, I mean, it should be a good day. I'm glad we're having a show on the Labor Day. Just keep everything in schedule because we have so much YouTube content these days that it's important to stick. I mean, this is first down. You want to get 7 yards on first down, stay ahead of schedule. So that's what we're doing here on a Monday. So we appreciate everybody that is joining us on this holiday. Big weekend for Penn State, big weekend for Penn State recruiting. And let's spend the next hour or so talking about it.
Yeah, and we got an explosive play over the weekend. If we're going to continue the football metaphor, excellent response from the Penn State football community. Thank you to everybody who watched our live streams, both the tailgate show and the postgame show. We had excellent job by Ryan and the guys at the stadium getting you content from Penn State postgame. Drew Aller's comments, James Franklin's comments. We have all that on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, so go check that out if you haven't yet. Today's your off day. Maybe you were Sunday just hanging out doing fantasy drafts like Fitz. We got all of that for you over at the YouTube channel. And thank you to everybody who stopped by at the tailgate show. I know there were a couple people that said hi, and I was super locked in, and I didn't have a chance to say hi to everybody. Steve said was at the game, stopped by the broadcast, gave T. Frank a thumbs up. It was awesome to see you, Steve. Thank you so much for doing that. I did see you, but I was told there was somebody who was trying to get my attention during the live show, and I just totally blew him off because I was in work mode. So appreciate everybody who was at the different tailgates that we had, and we look forward to seeing you throughout the 2023 season. If you want to go to the game, you need tickets, and Tixman Gym is your location to get tickets to the most exciting atmosphere in college football. 110,000 people were at the game this past weekend. Were you one of them? If you've been looking for a reliable source of Penn State football tickets, TixmanGym.com, formerly PSUTixman.com, has been running his ticket exchange in Wilmington, Delaware for over 25 years. Every buyer is handled with courtesy and respect, and every ticket purchased is guaranteed. Most every ticket is going to be transferred to your Ticketmaster email address, which, having done that a couple of times during the preseason, going to some NFL events, that is a super simple and smooth process now. So proceeds used to fund the PSU AA Chapter Scholarship Fund and the PSU Levi Lamb Fund for Athletic Scholarships. Get your tickets to the Whiteout coming up in a couple of weeks. Get your Delaware tickets. Get your homecoming tickets, and, of course, Michigan, all the home games. Go to TixmanGym.com, or you can contact Jim directly at TixmanGym@gmail.com. I'll give you the phone number twice because that's what you're supposed to do from broadcasting school. 302-521-8380. That's 302-521-8380. Penn State beat West Virginia 38-15 on Saturday. Fitz, you had your initial reactions in the wee hours of Sunday morning, but for people here that want to know what you think about the game, what'd you think about the game?
Well, I had the exclusive reaction that Drew Aller might be a pretty good quarterback. So I hate to keep that one behind the paywall. I mean, I said it last week when I went out to watch him at practice throw for sort of the first extensive look I got at him. It's just different coming out of his hands. And y'all saw that on the second throw of the game the other night. That was pretty ridiculous. I mean, it's just there are times I think it's best when you look at it and you can say, "Ooh, that's a good throw. That's great." But when you laugh when someone makes a throw, like that's like you just like, "Oh my gosh, that doesn't happen." And it happened with Drew. So that was fun. Saw a lot of good things. Week one, it's rusty. Like it's clunky, it's rusty, it's everything that you it's everything that went into Nate Bauer's 28-point prediction last week, which I'm sitting up there in the third quarter just praying he's going to be wrong. Not because I don't, I just don't want him to be right. And luckily Penn State got on the board. Penn State has not listed the hero position on their roster for some time, but Bo Prabula played that role the other night for a lot of Penn State fans, I know. No, it was just it was good. It was very much week one. It was right on schedule in our in-game thread of they get to halftime. It's like who wants to change their season prediction now? Come on, they did it last year. They did the exact same thing last year. They had a worse showing against Purdue last year, especially defensively. Gave up 31 to a better offense, obviously. But West Virginia played hard. They played in their game, which was condensing things, running the football, and extending plays with Garrett Green, who played himself a heck of a game. I mean, that was I said it during the game the other night. Cam Rising against Utah, like that was it, and it had a very Rose Bowlian feel to that game. Like you never thought that Penn State was out of sorts or not going to win the game by double digits, but it was just a matter of getting there, and eventually it got there. I do like that Penn State showcased a bit more firepower, big play potential through the air than we probably thought we were going to see. Like I think waiting to ease into it, the stat line was there as we expected, but at the same time, like that's an offense that can score quick. Now, red zone issues are certainly an issue, probably outside the 5. You've got that running game, and I think that probably the most encouraging thing is how much they threw at Drew to use that passing game. Like, yes, you've got Singleton, you've got Allen, and you want to lean on that at some point during this year and lean on it pretty heavily, to be honest here. But like they let him try and get out of jams that they got themselves in by being 2nd and 10, by being 3rd and 10. So I think that's an interesting way to look at how much they were throwing at Drew in week one against a Power 5 opponent. I mean, I know West Virginia's not supposed to be at the top of the Big 10 or even in the middle of the Big 12. I keep doing that. But
they'll
I think,
all be the Big 10 eventually.
Yes, I think you're probably not wrong. No, I think that they threw a lot at him and he handled it pretty well. And, I think this team is going to continue to improve. The defense, as much belly aching as we did over the defense, the first team defense gave up 7 points. And then the second team defense gave up that last touchdown. So I think there's a lot of good. There's a lot to work on. Special teams, not good. That needs to get better. Alex Falcons did come in and do a nice job. Gabe Nwosu did a really good job with kickoffs there. But as far as week one wins go, that was certainly, that's kind of what you expected. Maybe a score here, a score there. But hey, man, that's why you get going. You are essentially in college football dropped in cold. I mean, you can scrimmage your own team all you want. You're going against players that don't know, or that you don't know what they're doing. They don't know what you're doing, and that's going to cause a little bit of chaos. Penn State did turn the ball over. They had one penalty, which was a false start on a punt gunning. That those are things that are encouraging signs as they get into not the meat of their schedule, but when they go to Illinois in a couple of weeks. Which, by the way, Illinois didn't look great. Ohio State didn't look great. Michigan didn't look great. Like, this is week one. We do this every year to ourselves. It's so much fun, and I can't wait to do it again next year.
With the defense, you mentioned there that the offense didn't have a penalty. Maybe they weren't super efficient in the red zone, but they still moved the ball quite a bit in that game. With the defense, is that where you're saying a lot of you're dropped in cold and it felt like there was a little bit of discombobulation on the defensive side of the ball? Is that more of what you were speaking of there when you made that comment?
I think so. I mean, gap soundness was an issue last year. It showed up in a big way against West Virginia. Everybody's going to point to the defensive tackles, but that whole defensive line, I think, looked like they were just feeling themselves out for a while. I think that whole defense was kind of feeling themselves out for a while. So I would lean to that. Like I said, gave up 7 points, which is we're kind of found ourselves in the Illinois from a couple of years ago scenario where they gave up yards, they gave up some big plays. Third down defense seems like it was bad, but West Virginia, I think, was 4 of 14. So it wasn't, from a percentage standpoint. It's just these things. Yeah. The negatives stick out to you, and the positives are kind of what slip your mind. Yes, there's absolutely things to tighten up, and I think they've got the talent to do it. Tackling is always an issue in week one. One of those things that you just look at and you say that's going to happen. You're going to have misses. You don't want to have the bad misses. Abdul Carter the other night he had some bad misses, but you got to tighten that kind of thing up. But yeah. check out our impressions. There's week 1 issues. There's long-term issues. We try and hash out those things and talk them out. And, everybody comes out the other side of the weekend feeling okay. Like it's not the end of the world when somebody else gets a first down. That's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, and we get into some of that in T Frank's film room over. We did the offense passing game specifically. So if you want to feel good, check out the passing game. Later today, my plan is to get to the defense, and we're gonna play Who's Got the B Gap, because I don't know after watching the film and reviewing it, like Manny Diaz and his defense, and part of that too, I think. Just this is the only thing I'll say about that. Part of this is a little bit of discombobulation and a little bit of that's the defense. Sometimes they have situations where they run a play, they run a defensive play, and I'm not sure that there is somebody for the B gap. So we have to figure. I'm going to dig into that a little bit later over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. Of course, you can get Fitz's reactions. We've got some reactions in the chat as well. So thanks for the working on the holiday, Steven. As always, glad to be here. Glad you're here as well. This one, like an auto styling, asks a question. This might be a little bit preemptive. Ryan, I want to come to you on this one. I want to get your reaction to this, get you in the show. Love the show. Great game by Aller. If he keeps this up, do you think there are any 2023 guys that decide they want to come play and flip to Penn State? Week 1, do we have a gauge of how that feels of the quarterback being so good after week 1?
Well, not to be too much of a smart you-know-what, but 2023 guys are freshmen currently at other schools. But I'm sure somebody's gonna go in the portal.
Hey, it's
2024
portal age, man.
And, no, I mean, well, look, I think they're absolutely going to, wide receiver wise, go for players who are currently committed elsewhere. I think that seems to be their route. There may be a late bloomer or two that emerges, but yeah, I mean, I do think that's kind of the plan. If they can flip a wide receiver who's currently committed elsewhere, that seems like the most likely route they're going to go. Who that is, time will tell. I mean, there is a big pool of guys there. We've had Jalen Hornsby, circle for a little while. Someone to keep an eye on.
There's enough going on in Jalen Harvey's recruit. We don't need to make him a wide receiver too.
Yeah. But yeah, I do think, I mean, if there's a position to watch or someone to flip, wide receiver certainly makes the most sense as of early September.
We got a ton of people here for a Monday morning. I love it. The holiday we got double what we normally have on a Monday show. So if you're new and it's the first time you're catching us live, please do 2 things. Consider liking the video. We've given you some good stuff already in analysis of the game. We're going to be getting into the Penn State recruiting stuff. And of course, if you're new here, tons of new people subscribing over the last couple of days at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. If you're still one of those people that hasn't, subscribe to BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. You're going to get a ton of information, ton of analysis, ton of insight. And if you subscribe here to the YouTube channel, it's a bonus that it's free. David says, it was a solid week 1 in college football to get a win. Lots to build off. The D will be fine. Offense looks better to start the season than it has since Trace McSorley and Saquon Barkley were in the blue and white. So positivity from David Greeter, who always is here to tell us that the Penn State's going to be the 2023 champions of the Big Ten. On the flip side, KJ here as well. Thanks for the donation. Happy Victory Monday. Alder's poise was amazing to see. Run defense, not so much. West Virginia O-line was very good. Their running back is a tank, so not going to panic just yet. I think that's good. Also, Fitz, part of the perception of the run defense comes from the quarterback scrambling. And that is not exactly the same thing, and it's also related when it comes to the way you feel about the run defense also is because the contain on passing plays wasn't great, which is different in a sense than your gap soundness in the run game.
Yeah, the gap soundness is obviously an issue, but the backside pursuit, those sort of things crashing down, like taking back the cutback lanes, that was an issue last year too. It seems to still be, hanging around and lingering there. But you're right. Like if you look at what West Virginia did as a true running game, when you take the quarterback scramble out of it, it wasn't that successful. Like it wasn't a situation where they got run all over. Seemed like it at times when you're picking up. I think they gave up 5 runs of 10 yards or more, which is not ideal. Yeah. But a lot of those were quarterback scrambles as well. So I think that probably the expectation of this being a shutdown defense from week 1 is what's playing into that role. Like again, Penn State gave up 7 points to the first team offense. Like that was a situation. I think that the best way to take into account Penn State's confidence in their defense is that they were up 31-15 and Bo Prabula was in the game. That's a 2-score game. Like that's a 2-score game. And you're putting all the backups in. Like that's saying something about where you think you are compared to where West Virginia can hurt you, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Now you have a turnover, that first team defense goes back in, but that's very un-James Franklin-like.
That's a great point.
Like he is a guy that likes to get up 4 touchdowns before he puts the new quarterback. And I was just talking about that at the tailgate the other day with some people. Like he hates to make that change, but I think they felt comfortable with where they stood. I think they were comfortable the entire time. They're missing some guys, but it was a situation where they felt pretty comfortable about where they stood. And I think that defense is going to take a step. Like I said, they gave up 31 points to Purdue to open the year last year. Nobody was talking about how great of a defense they were. They ended up pretty good. So yeah. I think they're gonna be okay. DN's getting up the field a little bit. D tackles getting up the field a little bit as well. Like those guys are quick, and that's great. But there's got to be an element of playing within the system, and I think that's really what you're looking for with those front four, is to really not let that get away and get, I guess, over pursue and get up the field, occupy some blockers. The linebackers I didn't think played that well, but of course they were dealing with that wave of the offensive line. Really good test really good test off the bat of this offensive line. That was a good offensive line. Like they did some really nice things. I don't think they overwhelmed Penn State, but you're not playing Toledo. You're not playing a school that can't physically be a Power 5 offensive line. That's on the better half of the Power 5 offensive line. So I think that like it comes with some perception, like everything. Like it comes with some perception. Yes, there's a lot of things to clean up, but I think we saw enough good and enough talent and enough speed. Like speed is very key. Like Curtis Jacobs, I thought was very good. Yes. Like he was all over the place. There was one play, I believe in the third quarter, in which he took an outside route, then he took an inside route, and then he stopped. He pivoted and went back outside and ended up with a quarterback hurry on a scramble. Like that was a ridiculous play by Curtis Jacobs, and it didn't result in any real stats. I think probably got a quarterback hurry out of it, but it also, changed that drive. Like it essentially ended a drive. So really encouraged by some of the stuff. I mean, I don't want to come out of week one saying that this, just because Penn State didn't score 50 points or 45, I think item is 45, just because they didn't score that and they got the late touchdown. Hey, late touchdowns happen. Backdoor uncovered and then covers happen. And that's what we saw the other night. So I'm encouraged by a lot of what I saw, and just because it wasn't 60-5 or whatever, that's kind of where we're at on this Monday morning.
David Greeter asks, why haven't we heard anything about Alex Birchmeyer when talking about O-line depth here by Javen Williams and Anthony Donka, but no Birch? Dave, that is one thing that if you want to know more about that, bluewhiteillustrated.com, that's a place you got to go to get that particular slice of information. We'll be getting into some of the other stuff this week when it comes to the offensive line depth and kind of the preparation for the rest of the season. But that's one area where I appreciate you being a part of the show. We've got some trade secrets there behind the paywall that you got to go to bluewhiteillustrated.com for. Ryan, coming to you. You were at the Tom Leming photo shoot, shifting our focus away from the game into the recruiting aspect of this particular weekend. Lines up pretty well to have Tom Leming at the game or in State College for the weekend. So first off, explain for people that don't know what that is and why it was important to Penn State over the weekend.
Well, it just helps get guys into the area, right? I mean, they're two totally unrelated events. I mean, Tom's smart. He understands this is a big event. There's going to be a lot of recruits coming in here naturally just to watch the game. So you kind of line them, or Tom lines it up with that, and it helps get a lot of players in the area or throughout the region, so he can get his photos. And obviously Tom does a big magazine. I think most of you guys know who Tom Leming is. And I really appreciate Tom letting me come out on Saturday, see a ton of elite players, man. We've talked a lot about the Harrisburg guys there. It was great getting to know Tyler Merrill more and Kevin Brown more, Maurice Barnes more. There's going to be very important players for Penn State moving forward. But there's a lot of guys outside the region who I haven't gotten to know a whole lot yet. Charlandian Strange, a player from Cheltenham down towards Philadelphia, is a guy who I've struggled to get in touch with for the longest time. I was telling Sean the other day, I'm like, man, had a great conversation with him. Really nice kid, great kid. Seems like he would fit Penn State. Let's see where that goes down the road. But just building relationships with guys, that was the big thing I kind of got out of that event. Talking to someone like DJ McClary, for example, who I think is going to be one of the top linebackers in this region. Just little things like that. Getting to know guys, connecting faces to Twitter accounts, right? Because I've been messaging these guys for God knows how long now, but probably a year for many of them. But they don't really know who I am, right? And same with their parents. So really, again, thanks. I appreciate Tom letting me come out to that. Tom's connected with CBS. He's kind of does his own thing, not really connected with some of the big sites. So for him to allow me and to some degree On3 access to that was really appreciative. Great to see Jalen Matthews too. I haven't really talked to Jalen too much here in recent months. He let me know that we have him incredibly underrated, though, which I wasn't surprised about. Quite a few guys let me
nice
know.
to hear.
Where's he rated right now? I thought he was like a top 100 player.
He wants to be number one, period. End of story.
Yep.
If he's not number one, we have him underrated, which I love the confidence. Like he's certainly, there's a lot of linemen who are like jolly giants, right? Very nice, timid, laid back. Not Jalen Matthews. This kid is business, man. He's a bad mofo, we'll say. Okay. So
76 overall, by the way, which is the highest in the industry.
Right.
Yep. We're right there.
Right. Because I said that. I was like, we have you at top 100, like pretty good, man. He's like, I'm not number one, am I? I was like, I don't think so. He's like, enough said. Just like walked away. I was like, okay.
Okay.
But
that's all you can say.
Yeah. Anyway, great event. Really appreciate Tom letting me come out, see everybody, meet parents, meet players, and hopefully that only helps our coverage here moving forward.
So that was a good nugget from outside of the game specifically, but let's get into West Virginia recruiting reaction review. And that's something that Penn State fans are very excited to know. Once again, BlueWhiteIllustrated.com is a place to get all of the information that Ryan and Fitz have gathered. If you didn't catch our special deal last week, the kickoff special, where you got it for 50% off, I don't know what to tell you. We talked about it on every single show. We had social media posts about it. I don't believe that is live right now, so it's still worth it to sign up, though, because you get 365 days of amazing coverage from these guys, and they give you all the insights. So, Ryan, of the things that you had this weekend, what do you think is interesting to share here on the show?
Well, I don't. It's always kind of the same thing, right? I don't want to like overhype it and make people think like this was a different event than what we've seen in years past. It's a lot of the same stuff. Amazing crowd, right? It's always about, I have so many guys always mention, the coaches are great. It was a cool atmosphere, but what I thought was really cool was the fans knowing who I am. And as they come out, of course, through the tunnel and down the sidelines to introduce or to watch pregame, excuse me. There's always a ton of students, so-and-so introducing, come to Penn State, all that stuff. I have so many guys always bring that up. So all the students who are watching us and paying attention to who the recruits are, keep doing your thing there because you're certainly leaving strong impressions on a lot of these prospects. But yeah, I think it really just comes down to the atmosphere. That's always the biggest thing that these guys bring up. You're not going to get an atmosphere anywhere in the Northeast that's similar. Obviously, Ohio State, Michigan, a lot of SEC schools have incredible college game day atmospheres. But Penn State in this region is kind of the only one that can really offer that size of a crowd and, that intensity. And I think it leaves a really strong impression on a lot of these players. I had so many guys also bring up that they're excited to come back for Iowa, right? And that's kind of one thing we've been talking about a little bit is it's like back. Obviously, there's the Delaware game in between, but Penn State has an opportunity to kind of go back to back, getting a ton of guys. A lot of the same guys who were here this weekend are going to be back here in a couple of weeks. And to really set the bar high here as players then go on in October and November to visit other schools. So I think a lot of the same stuff as always, man. Excited to get around, that kind of an atmosphere and see what State College is all about. And, just kind of seeing the impression it'll leave for guys moving down the road.
Fitz, what sort of reactions did you gather from the weekend? What sort of things do you think are interesting to bring up here on the show?
Yeah, I think that if you came into the weekend expecting a commitment, I mean, it's still a little early for these guys, 2025 guys, especially the 2026 guys. I know they've got a couple on board and they've got one in the 2026 class, but it's going to take guys. If you remember playing the old NCAA game, sometimes you would offer a kid and he'd commit right away. Like those are the guys that right now would be committed. I think that's kind of how it plays out. Interested, Brady O'Hara, the tight end from Pittsburgh, is a guy. I think the RPM is very strong on Penn State right now, and that's one that's pointing heavily toward the Nittany Lions. But you've got some of the usual suspects from the region. Lyric Samuel was back this weekend. He's a receiver from New York who I think has been here 5 times this year. Like that's an interesting one to me, one to keep an eye on. Trent Wilson, I see somebody in the comments made a comment on Trent Wilson, the St. Francis defensive tackle. St. Francis was out East St. Louis this weekend, and he was not with them. He was at the game at Penn State. That's an interesting one. Yes, St. Francis is very St. Francis to Penn State. Penn State has not landed anybody from there. Trent Wilson is a transfer in from St. John's in D.C. So maybe there's a little bit of a difference there than typically what Penn State runs across with St. Francis. There's not a conspiracy that keeps St. Francis kids from coming to Penn State. It's just a completely different atmosphere when you go from Baltimore in the city, Baltimore to State College is very different than what a lot of the St. Francis kids are looking for. And like I said, just can't hammer it home enough. It's not a conspiracy that's keeping St. Francis kids away from Penn State. Anyway, beyond that, Kanoa Winston back in town. That's a good one. He saw his cousin start for the first time. I think that's it was a really good list of 2025s. I know Ryan covered a bunch. A couple of guys committed elsewhere that popped up on campus. That's always good to see. Some you might have a shot at, some not. I really think having that Leming photo shoot there helps Penn State quite a bit. So would not be surprised if they had another one in the spring. That's what I think they usually do, one and then a lighter one in the spring. But it certainly helps to get those guys around campus, and they stick around for that atmosphere, because that atmosphere is pretty special. When you're up there shaking in the press box in the pregame, 20 minutes before game time, you kind of realize what's different about the way that Penn State approaches things.
I miss fearing for my life. Being in the press box, like being here in the studio, doing everything I do, I thoroughly love what I do. But if there's one thing I do miss, it is the atmosphere at Beaver Stadium for those big games. If you haven't been there before, Tixman Jim, you got to check it out. You got to go and you got to see the game, because it is genuinely different. Ryan, Maurice Barnes, you had a chance to speak with him. Again, BlueWhiteIllustrated.com to get the full conversation. Any highlights you want to pull away to give people kind of a nugget so they go and check out the full conversation?
With Maurice, not as much. I mean, and one thing I'll say with Maurice is just like he's 2026 guy, just kind of getting started, right? Been to Penn State a bunch, so there's a good foundation of a relationship there with Manny Diaz and a few recruiting assistants, but still kind of getting his feet wet. His only other school he's been to is Virginia Tech, but I think he should end up being an important target for Penn State. Has an offer already. 6'1", 195 as a linebacker. I think they really want to see kind of how he grows and progresses. That's the one question mark I really have about Barnes at the moment. The one guy I do kind of actually want to mention is Jaden Blair, safety prospect. We talked about him a little bit. I'll have a story on him here shortly, pretty much once we get done with this show. He's the guy that really is kind of standing out as far as relationship with Dex. Flat out being very honest with me about like Penn State's a school I really like. So he's a 2025 prospect. North Carolina, by the way, a state that Penn State needs to gain some more momentum in. So I think that's important to note. And again, I'll have a story up on him kind of detailing some more things, I would think probably in the next hour or so. But the 6'4", 180, very tall, lanky safety. Does he stay at safety long term? I think he will. I think Dex loves his length, but there's a lot of length.
Yeah, he's been up a bunch. I guess a bunch for a North Carolina kid.
3 times. Yeah. 3 times since March. I mean, he was at camp.
North Carolina kid, though. Yeah.
Yeah, he was at camp, which was big. I think that camp was like kind of a game-changing moment, I'd say. He liked Penn State a lot, but working with Dex was big. And then also Penn State getting measurables on him was big on the other side, of course, is Penn State being genuinely interested. Because someone that size, they got to make sure he can move. And he's not running 4.4s or anything, but at 6'4", 180, I thought he was like a low 4.6, something like that. So something that they can see and improve and grow on here in the months ahead.
Yeah, Zakee
Especially-
Wheatley covers a lot of ground, and he's not a 4.5. He's not a 4.4 guy. Like that.
Yeah.
That length does matter.
Yeah, and especially if you're 185 pounds, there's a great chance that if you're 6'4", 185, once you put a little more muscle on your body, you're going to have a chance to lower that 40 time, especially. Guys in action this weekend. Let's rewind the clock, go past the Penn State game, go past the pregame, go past the tailgating, go back to Friday Night Lights. There were a lot of guys that were in action, and we're going to be recapping some of them here on the show today. So I believe we should start with Ethan Grunkeyemer. Once again, another win. We mentioned this, and I think that this is a polarizing conversation of like his team was not great last year. They are off to a 3-0 start, and they look very good and very explosive in 2024. I think that's a huge.
I've tried loading max preps. Can you guys hear that?
Every single time, it is an autoplay, loud autoplay, and
Yes.
I can't do it during the show anymore. It's tough.
So who wants to go with Ethan? Who wants to have a conversation about what they saw from Ethan Grunkeyemer?
Well, I was trying to load the score to make sure I had it right. I knew they played Westerville South. I don't remember the exact score. Friday night into Saturday, of course, with this weekend was all a bit of a blur. But we know the stats, right? 17 for 26, 216 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So a solid showing there. I think fans got a crazy expectations, right, when he threw for 500 or he went for 500 total yards in that first game. 216 and 3 though, solid, and obviously love seeing 17 for 26. I'll be honest though, I haven't really reviewed all these guys' film yet. The one guy I have really seen the film for was Anthony Specca, and that's just because one of our coworkers, Zach Libby, he went out to Central Catholic this weekend to watch, just a handful of guys that are out there. And man, he was texting me all night on Friday, just kind of raving about Specca and his performance overall. I know we're showing Grunk in the moment. T. Frank, when you get a chance, put on Specca's highlights because his game was, I think, one of the more impressive ones we've seen from him. 10 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 2 PBUs. Only played for a little bit into the third quarter, and that was it. But man, it's very impressive. I think as far as his reads and stuff. I mean, he looked like a straight missile out there the other night. And one thing we've always mentioned with Specca is like speed and decision making and things like that. And I mean, I think you saw what he brings and his growth in some of this film here. I don't know a ton about St. Ignatius's line and how that kind of played into these highlights. I'd like to watch the complete game if I could. But man, this is one of the more, I think, impressive films of this weekend. And then obviously of really Specca's entire career. So wanted to mention that. Sean, I'll throw it to you if you want to mention any other guys. I mean, I know Quinton Martin had a pretty good week.
Yeah, St. Ignatius is I don't think
Ignatius. What the hell's wrong with me? Sorry.
Yeah.
No, it's Ignatius.
I only mentioned them just to point out your vocabulary.
Thank you.
No, but they're usually okay. I don't think they're anything great this year, but Central Catholic smacked them 47-6. I mean, they were far and away. I think Zach went out because this is Cole Sullivan's there, obviously the Michigan guy, but it was, it's one of those ones when you look at the schedule, you see St. Ignatius, you say they've had some players in the past. Central Catholic went out and smacked them up pretty good. So really good team right there. That Central Catholic team, we saw them at 7-on-7 this year. Obviously they've got Specca. Obviously they've got Peter Gonzalez, who is a big play receiver at that level. And they've got Sullivan, as I mentioned. But, that's a really good team. They're going to give a lot of people in Pennsylvania some issues this year. So excited to see them. Quinton Martin, his season debut as far as regulation games against Laurel Highlands. 6 carries, 103 yards. Scored 3 touchdowns, 6 catches, 49 yards. He's good. He's very good.
Yeah.
I don't know if the analysis goes that much more deep. Laurel Highlands overmatched, obviously, but this kid keeps growing on me. He's a really, really fantastic player and does it in different ways. He's not just taking the handoff, running away from guys. He is catching the ball. Again, I've said it in the past. He might be Penn State's best receiver commit. But yeah, he's toying with kids right now. If you're watching the YouTube show, he's a very good player. So I was excited to see Quinton debut. Just from talking to people, I know there's been questions about his future position. He can play running back at this level. Like he has the abilities and the agilities and all the other itties that you need to play running back at this level. He can play low at 6'1", and he could do some special things. So I'm really excited to see where he fits into the on which echelon he fits into in Penn State's running back room when he gets here, because he can play running back. And is it a situation? I mean, you're supposed to have Nick Singleton, you're supposed to have Katron Allen back for his freshman year. Is it a situation where you put him in the slot and maybe see what he can do, play him around different areas, and see if you can get him onto the field as a true freshman? Because it's angling like he's one of those guys that can come in as a true freshman and actually do some things, not just provide some spots, but actually do some things and be a weapon as a true freshman. And I know that the talent level at Penn State is higher than it's been in the past when we've seen those guys. Some guys come in on offense and be statement guys on in that huddle. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that, because I think he's really good. I think he's really good.
Yeah, and even at the very least, special teams is going to be a part of the conversation for him. And if you want to take a couple carries off of Nick Singleton, throwing him back there at kick return, I got tired of watching all of Quinton Martin's kick return touchdowns. So every time I saw him take if he was in a kick return position, I just skipped by it, because yes, he's very big and he's very fast. I know that already.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, one thing with Quinton too. These next 3 weeks, we're going to get a good feel for his growth, I guess you'd say. I mean, they have McKeesport, Penn Trafford, Thomas Jefferson. Like, their best 3 opponents are these next 3 weeks. So if you really want to watch, or you want to go see Quinton play, I suggest, and you obviously you live out in that area, go to one of these next couple games, because they'll roll through their conference like they always do. Bell Vernon will go far in the playoffs. Penn Trafford, Thomas Jefferson, and then McKeesport this weekend. All 3 quality opponents.
Peter Gonzalez, I'll just mention him quickly. Unfortunately, I got some video of Peter from the weekend, but it was not broadcast airable. He's explosive. Like, when we looked at him last year, and it's like, yeah, but is he fast? I think he's got great hands. A sick one-handed catch that I saw this weekend. Vertical threat, and he's really good at adjusting to his quarterback when they're scrambling. So he doesn't get a ton of targets because, as you guys mentioned, that Central Catholic team is stacked. But when he does get targets, he makes the most of them. One last guy I know that we wanted to cover was Cooper Cousins. Fitz, you want to get Cooper Cousins for us? Got you on mute. Perfect.
I always want to get Cooper Cousins. He's playing center, which is awesome, and he is straight up mauling kids. He's playing Barberton, which he should be mauling kids. Their D tackle probably 6'2", 270. So, like, of the guys that he's going to go against up around Erie, pretty big. And he kind of destroyed him at times. So I know that guy was trying to cut him a bunch, as you just saw right there. Cooper caught him and pile drive him. So that's good to see in a center. If you watch some more clips, I think the next clip is the one of him pulling and mauling someone, which is always fun. I was interested to see where he would play. Played a lot of tackle at camp this year, and he has the size, the length, and the athletic ability to play tackle, which will be really interesting to see when he gets here in January, if they put him at tackle like they did with Alex Birchmeyer this year, to see if he can handle it, or if they just kind of try and keep him inside. They're obviously going to be looking for a new center next year with Norzad moving on regardless. So be interested to see where he fits in the ready to play among offensive linemen role, which is a really, really tough thing to do. We've seen some really good offensive linemen come in, and the red shirt is the best call for them. I know we were asked about Birchmeyer earlier. The red shirt is the best call for Birchmeyer. Yeah, man, Cooper Cousins, I know he's not, there's the one. Yeah, where he just 74. Yeah, it's not a good day for him. He gets out there and he knocks some kids around, and that's what he should be doing. Let's not get this too far out of context. That's what he should be doing against Barberton, and to see him doing it from the center position kind of reminds you of what Ryan filmed last year with Javen Williams pulling from guard. Like, he's got some feet. He's got some feet, and that's what you need to succeed at this level. He's got the size to play right away if he needs to. Will Penn State need him to play right away next year? I don't know, but never can have too many offensive linemen handy, as we've seen already in August with Penn State.
And one thing I love, and just seeing Cooper up close over the summer at camp, in really good shape and 300 pounds. So when he gets to Penn State, there's going to be room to grow. So this isn't a kid who is like a finished product that you're watching out there as somebody who's 300 pounds and 6'6". Like there's a lot of room to develop, and I think he's done a great job of putting that weight on the right way over time. So just really overall a really impressive prospect. Guys, that's what I have for today. Ryan, any last players you want to highlight? Any last thoughts for the show?
That was my first time seeing Cooper's film from this weekend. I was saying Specca had the best film this weekend. I don't know, man. Maybe Cooper did. That was impressive. Man, he's another guy. Like, I really want to go up there and see. It's just like such a long trip, and it's an offensive lineman. Like, I feel so bad that I haven't gotten up there.
You can stop in Sugar Grove, and we'll get some snacks. We'll go up together.
How about you go, T. Frank? You're a little you got family up there. You can make that work. But no, that's all I have. I mean, look, it was the one thing I'll say is like we haven't broke down like numbers and stuff from this weekend. It was well over 100 prospects. There was I think 40. I counted around 45 like true Division I 2025 prospects, and out of that 45-ish number, I believe it was around 30-ish. Who already hold scholarship offers from Penn State. So great numbers there. I mean, again, if you compare it to West Virginia, Pitt, Maryland, Rutgers, and I understand Penn State's on a different caliber, but like these programs would love to be getting these kind of numbers. I mean, I was talking to West Virginia guys up in the press box before the game, man, and they were just like, I've never seen so many recruits. And then I was showing them the list and the amount of talent, and that's not something you see at a lot of programs in the area. And again, I know Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, those are the three that are just kind of on a different level. But look, one last thing I'll say is Penn State recruits against West Virginia more than fans realize. I know they're trying to recruit against SEC schools and Ohio State and all that, but they recruit against West Virginia for a handful of guys every year, and to have that kind of a performance, that kind of atmosphere, that's the kind of statement, I guess you could say, that'll impact recruitments for the next 2+ years.
KJ Johnson here in the chat gives us another super chat. Thank you, KJ. This has been an awesome show from a lot of different angles. Love that everyone is hyped up and ready to go here on a Monday morning. He says, more O-line highlights, please. Love pancakes on a Monday morning. That's a perfect comment. I think that might win for the perfect comment of the day. Rick says, thanks for doing a show on Labor Day, guys. Much appreciated. We appreciate you being here, Rick. Fitz, take us out. Any last thoughts for the show today?
KJ's better off getting pancakes this morning than Nate Bauer, whose wife decided she wanted to go to the waffle shop on a football Labor Day weekend. Yeah. Have fun with that one, buddy. I think he's still in line. I just got a picture that they're sitting in line with the two kids. He's obviously happy. Malik McLean, 6'3", runs a 4.43, I believe. That was from the comments as well. He looked pretty fluid the other night. I know this is a recruiting show, but like we can wrap some things up with football as well. McLean looked pretty fluid. Liam Clifford, I thought looked pretty good as well. Receiver depth, it doesn't get fixed in 1 week. Like we got a good showing from the guys beyond Keandre and Trey, which put up some big numbers the other night. But if they get that level, maintain that level of consistency, obviously Cephas got to catch that ball and make it a touchdown. But a really good start for those guys, and they threw a lot at them. It was mentioned earlier that the tight ends were not targeted. Shocked me. Like that was an or a defense that you can really expose some things with the tight ends. Penn State didn't do that. Maybe they wanted to throw more at the receivers. I don't know. It's tough to tell what the motivation is sometimes for some guys, but I thought they played well. Anything else sticking out from the comments here? Ohio State will be okay. They'll be fine. Like, yes, they had a week 1-2. Michigan had a week 1-2. Let's roll back the Penn State's going to roll both of them talk because those are going to be pretty good games. Drew spreading.
Hey, how about those Colorado Buffaloes, man?
Hey, thanks for asking.
We got them on we got the comments early on the show, but we did not address it overall. You got the Colorado shirt on, and before we get to that, one last thing, I think Timmy points this out. Drew Aller spreading the ball around. I was encouraged by that. We have a conversation talking about Malik McLean and Liam Clifford today because Aller is great at finding the open receiver. But yeah, the shirt was super popular on the show today, and shocker there that Colorado was able to get that win.
I mean, shocker for some, not if you've been following.
I was waiting for that.
I fell right into it.
I kept getting texted because I was up on the tail in the second half. I was on the way to the tailgate, and of course, Penn State tailgating, you get batches of text. You don't get text; you get batches of text. So it would all come at one time that Colorado was going back and forth. Apparently, a heck of a game. I didn't watch the end of it. I haven't had time to roll back and get to the end of it, but Heck of a win for Prime, man. I've been saying this for a long time. So I saw him coach at the Under Armour game for a week. I think Herm Edwards was the other one. And he went to Jackson State. And I thought, if Prime is anything like the Under Armour coach, he is toast, because he was, just floating around, not really coaching, not really doing some things. And then he got to Jackson State. He did what he did at Jackson State, and it was impressive. And so he goes to Colorado, whole new ball game, obviously here. But I'm not going to doubt that guy. That guy has got a lot going for him in terms of staff, in terms of acumen. Tough schedule, not a lot of talent, but they will beat some guys. I didn't think they'd beat the defending NCAA finalist, who lost a lot as well, admittedly, but still, I thought they'd cover. I didn't think they'd win, but hey, that's a heck of a start. And hey, man, that's why everyone's here. College football is so great, isn't it? When you can come out and see that in week one, then you can switch the channel, and a couple hours later, you're watching your team play a night game in an atmosphere like Penn State, West Virginia the other night. College football is pretty great, man. I'm glad it's back.
Hold on. Speaking of batches of text, I got to throw one more thing in there. So I'm down on the field for the last touchdown. Bo scores. There's no service down there. I get into the press room. All my old drinking college buddies. Backdoor Bo, great teams cover. James Franklin's a legend. There was like 5 of them just rolling in about that cover. So James, you made all my old college buddies happy this weekend. I'm sure there was thousands, tens of thousands, maybe millions of others you made happy with that. But yeah, I was just cracking up as those texts were rolling in about the Penn State cover.
And you don't want to do best bets.
We'll talk about that on a Friday show. I promise.
No, I just love it that Ryan Snyder's best bets shows up Monday morning, because that is who Ryan is. It's an excellent addition to the show.
Thank you, T. Frank, for telling the world I'm a degenerate. I will admit it. It's okay.
Well, it's entirely legal, Ryan. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and it's a lifestyle choice. It is not.
Yeah, morally, I don't know when you're a journalist, but okay, let's end the show.
All right, that'll do it for today. We'll be back on Wednesday. I'll be recapping the game on the KSN on BWI show. James Franklin's press conference coming up tomorrow as well. All kinds of content. Make sure you subscribe here and at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. Thank you so much to Ryan Snyder and Sean Fitz. We will be back with more Penn State football content.